which takes relevant parts of the CANS bill and in protecting our national security interests, while also supporting our individual liberties and the right of American citizens. Thank you.
Yeah, my question, and I'm quoting directly from the CISE bill, is it said the Supreme Court ruled in 2005 case of Judith Miller upheld the decision that journalists refusing to tell their sources in security leaks of intelligence identities can be imprisoned. One, we point you to the fact that in 2005 the Supreme Court declined to hear that case and ruled nothing on it. And so we ask the question, how will you be protecting journalists' rights to keep our sources?
Here's the thing, we are currently not passing any laws that are not protecting journalists' rights. We are keeping the status quo.
There are no provisions in the CISE bill, we made sure this happened, that forces journalists to examine sources.
Why are you quoting a case that doesn't exist saying we can be in prison?
That's not what we're doing. We're saying that there are other legal mechanisms that might be used in the future and that journalists should be aware of that, but that the current status quo stands firm. The status quo of protecting our American citizens and protecting our fine press.
Okay. Does the bipartisan proposal allow journalists to keep their sources private?
Yes.
No matter what?
100%. So the new CISE bill takes aspects of the Democrats' bill, but it allows no impact. It does not impede the ability for.
It takes aspects of the CANS bill as well, which is, for example, the storage of metadata on servers for a year, but this metadata can only be accessed through legal due process. We also will put an independent ethics commission in place to make sure that the sentences of whistleblowers will be fair and just and bipartisan. Yes.
You're allowing the ethics commission to determine the length of criminal sentences?
No, that's not what's going on. They will check to make sure that the sentences that are passed down are just and fair, correct?
Well, according to the bill, the maximum sentencing for any criminal offense, if it's found that a whistleblower has committed a criminal offense, the maximum sentencing is reckless endangerment, especially in instances of like flagrant abuse of international law or government intervention, corruption, excuse me.
Yes.
In those instances, the ethics committee will be able to lower the sentencing or waive the sentence or acquit the related parties entirely, but they are not going to raise the sentencing.
What's the longest possible sentence a criminal can receive for reckless endangerment?
I'm not sure on the exact sentencing on that, but it is not a major charge.
However, there is a provision in there for fleeing the country and not abiding by our democratic process. That, such as was done in this case, there's a provision in there that the sentence might be longer than reckless endangerment, and we will deal with those cases separately.
Two questions. Can you explain the Indian sanctions, and also how would a 20% tax cut impact the U.S. economy?
So the sanctions specifically, this is meant to pressure foreign countries into stop giving asylum to specific whistleblowers, because we think that that's just not just, and that these countries should allow us to deal with our affairs internally, and that's why we have these specific punishments in place. But we also understand that that this might cause tensions between two relations, which is why this is only a 30-month.
Yes. The Democrats were sure to make sure that this expires after 30 months, and an entirely new law would have to be written in order to extend these sanctions.
Which it can be, if that is deemed necessary, but it is 30 months is the time period that will be allocated to that.
As the law is written, we're not allowed to sanction any country for offering asylum to whistleblowers past 30 months. Axios?
Who will determine the members of the nonpartisan commission? Who nominates them? Who confirms them?
That's something we haven't gotten discussed at length presently. Likely it'll be a bipartisan committee of both Republican and Democratic senators. As for the committee itself, I don't know. That's something we'll address at a later date. It will not be an executive order or anything like that.
Yes, Axios.
So you are creating a body whose members you have no mechanism to choose.
I apologize.
I'm sorry.
You're creating an institution that will be filled with members for whom you have no mechanism to select.
No, it will not be an executive form, which means that it will be some sort of bipartisan agreement
we'll create it within. As you can see, this bill is centered on bipartisan
So
communication.
what you're doing is creating an institution that's going to have members, but you haven't decided how those members will be chosen.
We do not know the exact mechanism yet, no. But we know that it's going to be a
bipartisan
body.
select fees. And the Ethics Commission, the extent of their powers, is to lower the sentencing on extreme instances of whistleblowing. That's the extent of their powers.
Does any other journalists have some questions? Yeah.
There was a provision about murder. Can you explain that?
Yes. So in the instance where a whistleblower is found, say, and this happened recently with Ms. Brainerd, where a whistleblower exposed information that got informants in the field killed. In those instances, the original provision of the bill was to charge those individuals with third-degree murder or involuntary manslaughter. The Democrats are able to lower that sentencing so that the maximum sentencing for such an instance is reckless endangerment.
Unless, of course, they flee the country, in which case there's other charges that might be, because we believe that it should be dealt with within our system and not subject to other foreign intervention.
Meanwhile,
we believe in America.
Meanwhile, if it's centered within the country, there's an ethics commission to review all these cases. So there are multiple mechanisms in place to make sure that
I
these
think that's all
individuals.
the time we have.
Yeah.
No, I have another
We
question.
need to work on our position paper and get it sent in right
Great.
now.
Thanks, guys.
Like, we all need to be working.